he was supposed to give the model of atom. Which model of atom he will give? Let's see that. So by this time, it was becoming clearer that the source of electricity, the source of charge, was residing in the element themselves. And since elements, it was well known now that they are made up of atoms. And you touch anything around you, you will find that all these things are neutral in nature. That means these things, since they are made up of atoms themselves, the atoms must be neutral also. That means atom should contain the negative and the positive charge, and that too in the equal amount. Now people asked, what is the structure of atom? Since they were not confirmed about the exact structure of atom, so Thomson came forward and he gave a model of what he think was supposed to be right. Since Thomson was a great believer in symmetry and uniformity, so based on his own thinkings, he gave his own model based on his findings. He said that atom possesses spherical shape because sphere is the most symmetrical geometrical figure which you can ever have, and that too of a radius of 10 to power of minus 8 centimeter. That means atom was very, very, very small, okay, way beyond the imagination of humans at that time. He also said that the mass of the atom is uniformly distributed, and he said that electrons are uniformly embedded in the positively charged sphere. He said that suppose we have a spherical atom. This is a spherical atom of radius 10 to power minus 8 centimeter. He said that the mass of atom is uniformly distributed, because it doesn't make sense that most of the mass is lying over there and lesser mass is over here. This lopsided structure is not that feasible. Now he further said that since he has discovered that the source of electrons and the positive charge is inside the atom themselves, so negative charge and positive charge should be residing in the atom themselves. So he considered that this sphere, the atom, is basically positively charged sphere, and in which the electrons are uniformly embedded. He called his model as plum pudding model or watermelon model. I mean, this means that we have a pudding and in which the plums of electrons are embedded uniformly. So since the atom is neutral, the negative charge should be equal to positive charge. Thomson's model was successfully able to explain the electroneutrality of atom. But the Thomson's model was not able to stand the onslaught of Rutherford's alpha scattering experiment. What is that experiment? Let us understand it in the next part. So Thomson gave his own model and he said that atom must be spherical in shape, and since atom is neutral, it should contain negative charge and positive charge both in equal amount inside that. He also said that the electrons are uniformly distributed inside the positively charged sphere. Now in science, see, this happens when you give a model. Now your model has to pass through the test of experiments. If your model is able to pass that experiment, your model is true. Good, I mean, it will become a theory now. But if your model couldn't stand the experimental findings, that means something wrong is there with your model. So either you have to change your model or modify it, or otherwise someone else will come and replace your model. So Rutherford took a task of finding whether the model given by Thomson was correct or not. So he took basically a source of alpha particle like radium. Now alpha particle is positively charged. It is nothing but helium nucleus or helium ion. He took basically a slit and a gold foil and a fluorescent screen. Since radium is a source of alpha particle, radioactivity was actually discovered at the same time, so he was trying to use that discovery to his advantage. So he took radium and he was aware that the alpha particles travel very fast. They have a decent penetrative power also. they can penetrate a thin foil of a metal. So in order to make a thin foil, he chose gold as an element to make a thin gold foil. Now, why gold? Because gold is the most malleable and ductile material in the entire periodic table. It can be beaten into very thin sheets, and this is exactly what Rutherford was looking for. He was really looking for a thin gold foil, a thin foil of a metal through which alpha particles can pass out, and he was trying to investigate, based on the passing of alpha particles, what will be the structure of atom. Will it be the way the Thomson told or something else? So he found that alpha particles were able to pass through the gold foil and they were able to strike on the fluorescent screen. Now what he was expecting that if Thomson's model is correct. Now Thomson model is positively charged sphere in which equal negative charge in the form of electron is embedded. Now if alpha particle which is positively charged will pass through this atom, it will not be deflected, because the alpha particle will be passing through a neutral atom. Atom contains equal and opposite charges in equal amount. This alpha particle, if passing through that, will not feel any kind of effective attraction or deflection. But he was surprised to find that the alpha particle, they were striking the fluorescent screen at different places. That means they were scattered, they were deflected. If they are deflecting, that means there is some problem with the Thomson's model. Now he quickly sat down on a piece of paper and with some mathematics he came to draw a structure of an atom kind of thing. He found that most of the atoms or most of the alpha particles, they were passing undeflected. Some of the particles were deflecting, and the most astonishing thing which made him feel flabbergasted, surprised, was that one of the alpha particle was deflected. Now see, let us see these observations in detail. So observation made by Rutherford. Observation number 1, most of the alpha particle passed undeviated. So it was fine. That actually means, if we conclude something from that the most part of the atom is empty. If something is passing undeviated, that is only possible only if the atomic part is empty, it is vacant. It's okay. Now few alpha particles were deflected. Now alpha particles are positively charged. Some positive charge is coming. If it is deflected, if it is passing through an atom, if it is deflected, this is only possible if we are having positive charge at the center of the atom. Otherwise it will not deflect. If you say that, sir, we can imagine that we are having negative charge, in that case this alpha particle, rather than deflecting, will collide with the atom as such, and there will be no scintillation found on the screen. So he was convinced that if alpha particle which is positively charged is deflecting, is deviating, it is only possible if there is a positive charge at the center of the atom. So since few alpha particles were deflected, he came to conclude that positive charge is at center. That's the only way the positive charge can deflect. Further, the most important discovery he was able to make is that 1 in every 10,000 particles rebounded. It was like, he was very surprised that it is like firing a bullet on a tissue paper, and that tissue paper has rebounded the bullet on your face. Since this gold foil is so thin that he assumed that all the alpha particles will be passing, because the penetration power of alpha particles was way higher than this thickness of the foil. He was not expecting the alpha particle to rebound. Now I'll give an example. For example, say we have a very light ball and we are having a very heavy ball. Suppose this light ball is the table tennis ping pong ball and I am having a football. If I roll it over there, do you think that this ping pong ball will be able to rebound the football? No. For rebounding, it is required that this ball should be heavy ball. Now I will exchange the positions. If I place a football out here and if I roll on the ping pong ball, yes, it will be rebounded. That means if alpha particle is rebounding, something much heavier is present at the center. Since why center? Because the positive charge is at center. Now only 1 in every 10,000 particle is being rebounded. That means since entire part is empty, only small part is having mass. That entire mass of atom should be lying at the center. So he came to conclusion that this positive charge, which is also at the center, also contains the entire mass of the atom. That means the model which Thomson gave was incorrect. Thomson gave that the mass of the atom is uniformly distributed, while Rutherford was trying to say that there is something called nucleus at the center of atom, and most part of the atom is empty. This nucleus is having positive charge, and since only 1 in 10,000 balls are rebounding, the entire mass should be present at the nucleus. It should be very heavy to rebound the alpha particle. So he was convinced that the model gave by Thomson was incorrect. So if the Thomson model was incorrect, what must be the next model, the next structure of atom? So Rutherford gave his own model. What will be his model? Let's see in a short while. So students, Rutherford was actually a student of Thomson. So his experimental findings actually discarded the Thomson's model. It was very difficult for him to report to Thomson that whatever model Thomson gave is actually incorrect. But fact is fact, and they say that experimental facts are more difficult to deny. Thomson said that atom is uniformly charged and it is having a uniform mass as well. But the findings from alpha scattering experiment proved with enough evidence that mass is not uniformly distributed. The center is having almost 99.9% mass of the atom. Also, the positive charge is not uniformly distributed, it is at the center. So now Rutherford thought of giving his own model of atom. So he sat down, he said that since entire positive charge is at center, he called this center as nucleus. Now he knew that since atom must be neutral, because you touch anything around, they are all neutral. You won't get shocked by touching them, because the atoms are neutral. If atom is neutral, then it must have equal and opposite charge. But that negative charge cannot be present over here inside the nucleus. It must be present outside the nucleus. So he gave a model in which the atom was represented as having nucleus at the center. Most of the mass was centered here, and negative charge was outside. This negative charge he called in the form of electron. He said that the amount of positive charge inside the nucleus is equivalent to the amount of negative charge outside the nucleus in the form of electron. And he was very happy now, because he has finally decoded the structure of atom, which has troubled the scientists for many years. But someone came, and on the lighter side actually, that he said that, Rutherford, I mean, you are a scientist of such a high caliber. How can you give this kind of a model? Rutherford asked, why? What is wrong with this model? My experiment says that the positive charge is at center. There cannot be negative charge, because if I put negative charge inside, alpha particles will not be deflected. So I have to put the negative charge outside. So someone told him the basics of 6th or 7th class of physics will make it imply clear that if we have a negative charge here and a positive charge here, the opposite charges will attract. So this electron will immediately fall into this nucleus, and the existence of atom will come into question. Rutherford was a bit worried, because something went wrong with his reasoning, because he somehow forgot his 6th or 7th class physics. So he was a bit disappointed, and he was pondering that since my experiment says that positive charge and negative charge cannot reside at the same place at the same time, so what I could do, if I place the electron outside, I have a different problem, because negative charge cannot reside outside the nucleus. So one day he was sitting on the roof and he was pondering. So while thinking, he was looking at the stars, the galaxies, and immediately he came to think that he has just forgotten his lessons of geography of 9th and 10th class. In his 9th and 10th class in geography, he has read about the planetary motion of planets. So there we have got, suppose say, sun is there, and all the planets are revolving around the sun, and these planets, they do not fall inside or into the sun, they do not collapse inside the sun. So he took a clue from that, and he said that this is the nucleus of the atom, and rather than having stationary electron, he said that just like the planets, this electron is moving. Why he said so? Because he knew that if these planets, if they are moving in circular motion, in that case the centripetal force is balanced by the centrifugal force. This was well known from the mechanics of that time. So he reasoned same. He said that the centripetal force on the electron will be balanced by the centrifugal force on the electron, and they both will be equal in amount, and that will balance the electron. So he said that the centripetal force should be equal to centrifugal force. They are both acting in the opposite direction, they will cancel each other, so the net force on the electron towards the nucleus will be 0, and this will make electron keep revolving around the nucleus. So he gave the name to his model as planetary model of atom, based on the planetary motion of planets. And now he was very happy that finally, by changing little bit, by giving a motion to electron, he has saved his model. So he decided to present his model in front of the entire scientific community. And while he was explaining that, his planetary model of atom, immediately in the crowd there was a man called Maxwell. Maxwell was a giant name in a different field of physics called electromagnetism. He objected to the findings of, or the conclusions of, Rutherford. He said that if a charged body will accelerate or revolve or move, it will start losing the kinetic energy. And if this electron, which is charged, if it revolves or accelerates, it will start losing the energy, and eventually it will spiral down into the nucleus. So again, the existence of atom will be in question. Rutherford was heavily disappointed, because he had worked really very hard to explain the structure of atom. But according to Maxwell's electromagnetic theory, which says that, and that too with evidences, that if a charged particle revolves, it will lose the kinetic energy and it will fall into the nucleus. So before giving up, Rutherford was a fighter. So before giving up, he said that if Maxwell, you are correct, then why the planets do not fall into the sun? Maxwell explained. He said that See, these are heavenly bodies. They are not charged. They are all neutral in nature. So my electromagnetic theory does not apply to neutral objects, does not apply to the neutral objects like heavenly bodies. But in your case, the electron, which you are saying is having a negative charge, in that case, my theory will apply and electron will start losing the kinetic energy and will spiral down into the nucleus. And he also gave him the time period. He said that this will happen in a moment of 10 to power of minus 8 seconds. So humanity was again in limbo. Thomson is not right. Rutherford is not right. Then what is the model of atom? But from the experiments of Rutherford, it was clear, very clear, that the electron cannot reside inside the nucleus. It has to reside outside the nucleus. But there was a problem, a big problem, that the moment you keep it outside, either stationary or moving, in both the cases, electron cannot survive. Opposite charges will attract. Electromagnetic theory is also against this survival. So it will collapse ultimately into it. If it collapses into it, we are back to the square one. We are back to Thomson's model, which is not correct according to Rutherford alpha scattering experiment. So the entire science community was in big confusion. They thought that they have almost resolved the puzzle of atomic structure, but after doing so much of hard work, they were again back to square one. How they will move out of it? What will be the solution? Will they be able to tell the stability or explain the stability of an atom? Because we know that atoms are there because we are alive. If you believe in this theory, in that case atoms must collapse. And if they collapse, there cannot be any existence of life, humans or otherwise. That entire universe will come to a halt. But thankfully, we are alive. The universe is functioning very well. That means atoms do exist. Let us prove the existence of atoms, and how you will prove that? We'll prove that in the coming lectures. So stay tuned. We'll be back again. Till then, take care of yourself. We'll be back. Thank you very much.